Today's No Bullshit About podcast guests are Sikora and Matłacz. These two guys presenting at this year EuroSTAR 2021 conference with an interesting and introductory presentation on new trends in testing. That's why we talk about this today. Well, Ela and Adam. CSI Testing is a really cool name, but just where did the inspiration came from?
Oh, I think you can describe, because actually the call for the name and inspiration for the whole idea comes from you. You are the initiator, so yeah.
Thank you, Adam. So after first exploratory testing introduced in our company by Adam, I was so thrilled about this technique that I came with the idea that I should bring something my own for the next exploratory session. And then I start thinking what it could be. In this process, I focus on that I behave like detective, and combining this with my personal love to TV series CSI Miami, I came with the first draft of the CSI testing like a detective. Then together with Adam, we decided to build this project, this concept bigger. And we came with the naming the CSI with the three main principles with the twist.
I think that Ella is too modest to describe how interesting it was at the beginning. Because, well, when we introduced exploratory testing in demand, it was just basically taking some books, blogs, whatever inspiration from other sources for different types of sessions, and that was basically what every person in my team have done, right? But Ella decided to do 120% of herself, right, and to introduce her own technique. So firstly, when she came to me with a question, Adam, can I invent something by myself? Well, obviously, yes, that's great. Just do it, right? And so what will it be, right? And then Ella told me about the CSI testing, that it will be just like a detective tracking some defects. So she gathered material from different backlogs, presented this to the guys during the session. And at the beginning, as I remember, it was just a technique for looking for defects, for investigating them, and so on. And it was really awesome that she decided to take an inspiration from her own life and make it really, really interesting, right? Because when normally you do a daily work day after day after day, it's very repetitive, right? So if you want to be creative and if you want to find the defects that others didn't found, then you have to think outside of the box, and that's exactly what Ella did, right? So she thought outside of the box, and even though the principles that you will find in CSI testing are very similar to the principles or rules that you can find in other places, it's the way how they are presented in the CSI testing is the way that it stays in your mind for longer. It opens your minds and it shows you the direction in which you should go as the CSI tester.
Okay, but how CSI testing is built?
So I think here I can describe that actually CSI testing right now is it has you could say three parts. First are the CSI principles, and there are three CSI principles. These principles are like code of conduct. Like when you are a detective or you are a police guy, you usually have like your guidebook, what you should do, what you should not do in your investigation. And it's not, of course, not pointing out every action that you should take in the investigation, it's just pointing the direction, right? So as a tester, as a CSI tester, you should do these things, right? On act in this way to be a professional, right? Another thing, another part of CSI testing is just inspiration on different paths that you can take as a tester, right? So you can be either a tester that uses different types of thinking in your daily work. You can be a tester that uses different tools and gadgets, and like you can be automate stuff. You can create automated tests. You can create some kind of scripts and so on and so forth. You can also be tester that brings different disciplines into testing to take inspiration from them. So basically, the second part is showing you examples of what you can do, in which direction you can develop your career, and also inspires you to build your career by your own. And the last, I think that the most meaty part of CSI testing is, I will leave it to Ella, I think, because that's her biggest baby, and I think that's the most meaty part of the CSI testing. So Ella, can you tell us what is the third part of the CSI testing?
Sure. The third part is the CSI procedure. So the gather the most important points which should be followed to do good CSI testing performance. So we have 5 main points, and based on that, you are 99% sure that you will be succeed with using CSI as a testing technique, because it's gather good practice, what you do, in what
You can also treat it as an inspiration. It just drags you hand by hand through the different parts of the CSI testing procedure, right? Which can be actually applied to testing anything. So that you can test requirements using CSI testing procedure. You can retest the defects. You can perform regression testing. So you can perform actually any kinds of testing activity in your project using CSI procedure. But at the same time, you can treat it as an inspiration, right? So we are using this metaphor of a crime scene which you are investigating, but you have to remember that this is just a metaphor. Underneath it, there are just good practices built on the Ella's experience and my experience of different projects, different places, right? So at the end of the day, you have to apply that procedure to your project and your situation. But it's, as Ella said, a good starting point that will give you 100% chance of succeeding at the end, because you can do less than you have on the CSI procedure, and you can do more. But it's a very good starting point that guides you through the whole testing process.
Exactly, just the guidelines that show you that you can do it this way or other way. Remember that all case is different.
Okay, the CSI testing is a really fresh and interesting methodology, but what skills should have the true CSI tester?
Would you like to start, Ella, here?
Yeah, sure. So at first, we like to remember that if people that will using CSI testing will think that they know this, that they feel like they are already CSI tester, they're probably right, because while presentation you will see many things that are common from different areas of the testing, and also in the past Krem kernel prepare his presentation and make in this presentation reference that testing can be like a CSI job. But we gathered our knowledge and experience and get it to a different level of the testing.
So the CSI tester should also have open mind, right? Yeah. As Ella said, we got the inspiration from the CSI Miami show, and as Ella mentioned, Kem Kerner in the past also have used this reference in 2006 or 2001, even 6. Okay, so he used this reference, but as Ella mentioned, we have built up on that, and right now it's not only reference but also like a whole framework that will show you the direction. But basically, you ask for the skills of the CSI tester, and the skills are open mind and openness for learning and expanding your knowledge, as we did in the CSI testing. When initially it was just idea, but to build up around this idea, you have to read different articles, stories, go to the presentation of Kem Kerner from 2006, right? Read few blogs and experiment in demand. And at the end, we gather this together in this CSI tester, right? So we don't point out to any particular skill that the CSI tester should have, but he should be able to do what we have done, right? So to read, learn, experiment, and apply knowledge to his particular situation, to the context in which he she is testing, and experiment, right? Experiment with different frameworks, technologies, and so on and so forth.
And he should have this willing to develop all the time, because we as a tester should not stop on what we learn to some point of time, because technology world is changing on, and we should be up to date and know what was in the past to be a great CSI tester.
Okay, but you have some feedback about CSI testing? People be interested, excited, or ask you about this?
Well, the fun part is that even before the CSI testing have seen the world, people were interested in it, right? So the first feedback we had from the organization after the first session from Ella. So I think Ella, you can share the feedback you heard from the team, from the manager, what he said after the first session in the organization, and then I can share the feedback from when we firstly showed the CSI testing to the world.
Sure. So after the first CSI that was with the previous version of the CSI testing, we gather a lot of positive feedback. People were thrilled because it was something new, something fresh. They didn't think that they can test and think in that way that we presented before the actual testing. They saw that they are something more than just a person that should find the bugs or should think about how this bug appears. And that was, I try to use the correct words. It was something new for them, that they can be something more important, more, they can be whatever they want, and bring some joy to their day-to-day work.
And then when first I mentioned on one of the meetups the name CSI testing, even though it was not prepared yet, Ella was still working on the initial concept. And after that, people started writing to me, Adam, what is the CSI testing? Can you share anything else? And I always had to say, no, you have to wait until Ella is finished and ready with the CSI testing. Then Ella asked me to help, so we are together working, but at the beginning it was only her. And I think that this is the most interesting and also important part from the feedback, that it stays in your mind. If you hear it once, the CSI testing reference, right, it stays in your mind and you remember it better. You remember that during your testing, you have to be open-minded, you have to use different tools, and you have to constantly learn. And basically, you have to think. You have to think, because very often in testing, we forget about thinking, right? Somebody says, okay, here's the ticket to test. You open the Jira ticket, read the description, do whatever is described in the ticket, and that's it, right? And I have tested the solution, so it's ready for the release. And that's simply not true. Your job is basically to think about stuff that is not described in the ticket, right? To talk with people about the stuff that is not described in the ticket, that is in their heads, and it's not described anywhere else, right? And the thing about CSI testing is that it's a very catchy name, right? Which stays with you for a very long time. And that's what happened before CSI testing even seen the word, and after, because it was already presented on one conference, we also received very positive feedback. People said, okay, that's great, it's really interesting idea, and were asking us, so how can I know that I'm actually using CSI testing, right? But that question is a bit missing the point, because as Ella said, it doesn't matter that you do word by word what we are presenting. What matters is that you think about the stuff that you are testing and consciously applying techniques according to the context that you are using in your project, right? So the feedback we've got since now, it's really good, and we hope that the way that CSI testing looks like now will be even better.
Okay, guys, I cross the fingers for CSI testing, of course, and I'm glad because I see you in EuroSTAR 2021, and we should invite all testers world for your presentations, I think.
Yes, for sure. Join us on EuroSTAR 2021. This year edition is fully online. So wherever you are, not only in wherever normally the conference would be, right? So wherever you are in the world, you can participate in the conference. There are many interesting talks, but of course, CSI testing is the most interesting one on the EuroSTAR, right? It's like the pearl in the conference. So me, from the bottom of the heart, I invite you to see the idea that came from Ella and today blossomed into this beautiful flower that you would like to share with the world.
I'm joined to Adam's invitation you to CSI to know the CSI testing as a technique, and also want to say that you will get much more information on the EuroSTAR conference, and it is very catchy name, so don't miss it.